Hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. This is the first Q&A session. I guess, and there's going to be one Q&A session every Friday, the first Friday of every month. So this is the first one. I have a few questions I want to start with. I'm just gonna say that these questions are answered off the cuff. So, and the editing I do to these are minimal. But I'm going to try to answer your questions in as much detail as I can. And obviously, if it requires more elaboration and I get more comments about that, I'll probably make a full-blown video just going over how to do whatever the question pertains to. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. Okay, so the first question is from, now if I butcher someone's name, please excuse me because I'm not very good with pronouncing names. But I'm going to try to do my best here. So Harib Flash Hints 8581 has a question. It says, "Hi, please explain more on how to demonstrate EAT. All of my non-AI sites fall from 300 users per day to 0 within a day, and it happens across all my websites." Now, for me to understand if this is really an EAT-related problem, I'll have to know what kind of websites you have. Usually, EAT is a problem with websites that have to do with require establishing credibility. For instance, if let's say that you are, you're running a website for a dentist, or if you are an engineer and you're selling parts and you're recommending parts and you're getting an affiliate commission from recommending those parts, or if you're any field that requires an expertise, so the E is for expertise, or if you're even selling products like maybe CBD related products, or if you're an affiliate for CBD related products, or hemp or hash, or any of these medical related products. Yes, there's also the YMYL thing, but that also applies in addition to the EAT, as rigorously enforced on many websites that are in those industries. And if you have a website that's in any one of these industries, then EAT is a problem. Now, since you've not mentioned your website, I'm just going to go off the fact that you are in one of the more general industries and you were doing very well, and now your websites are not doing very well, even though you don't have AI content. Now, having AI content is just one part of the puzzle. It could also be that your content is not very high quality, or it can also be that there are other websites that have better quality content that are now doing better than you. So they've come up further than you are, or they have improved their content. What you might want to do is, as a first step, is just to see what pages, go to Google Search Console and check what pages have lost the most traffic, or what pages were bringing in the most traffic and now they've lost that traffic. And then see as to why you might have lost that traffic. Maybe those pages are outdated, maybe those pages are not as well optimized. Put them to Surfer or Phrase or any one of those programs and re-optimize them. And then look at what EAT signals that you might be missing. So are you linking to a LinkedIn profile? If that's applicable, to a Facebook profile, is that applicable? Do you have a link from the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, if that's applicable, or any one of these local bodies? And then also, if you have your About Us page updated, so about the company, about you as a person, or if you're a professional marketing yourself, do you have that updated? Are your privacy policies updated? Your terms of use updated? So you just need to check if all of these things have been updated. But my hunch here is that one of your pages that were getting a lot of traffic, or many of your pages that are getting a lot of traffic, have been demoted or probably even de-indexed. In that case, you might want to check first before you go ahead and start making any kind of changes to the website. Okay, so the next question is from UNAT Jane 4408, and he or she asks, "Hi, should all pages have a canonical tag on them? Thanks." Yes, all pages should have a canonical tag. There are two primary types of canonical tags. You've got the self-referencing tag. That means that the page references itself in the URL in the canonical tag. And then you have a canonical tag that references another page, which could mean that it's a duplicate page. So for instance, if you had, let's say, product pages, and all of your product pages had the same description, but they were different products, let's say there were variations or very small changes to how the product was different, you would want to have a canonical tag that mainly references your main product page where all the specifications are for that product. And that will be your canonical page that you reference in all of your product pages instead of just the product page itself, which will be using a self-referencing URL. So instead of using a self-referencing URL, you'll reference the main page that has all the original content. So the reason why you want to do this is because you don't want Google to flag you for having duplicate content. So you can have self-referencing, if you had self-referencing canonical tags on all of your pages and they all had the same descriptions, but maybe 5 to 10% difference in the features that would maybe be like 20, 30 words, then you could potentially get flagged for duplicate content. Now this usually does not happen with e-commerce stores, but I have seen this happen with many e-commerce stores. So it is hit or miss. With service pages, for instance, if you had, the same business, the same service in 3 different areas, and you essentially have this 80% of your content is the same across all 3 service areas, then you would have a canonical tag that references one page that's your main original page, and then all the duplicate pages or the semi-duplicate pages will canonicalize to that one original page. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that Google will only index that original page. It will not index the pages that are referencing that original page. And so if you want to have those pages indexed, you might want to think about putting original content on those pages and then use a self-referencing canonical tag. And the only reason why people use canonical tags, especially not the self-referencing type, is because they want to prevent Google from flagging them for having duplicate content on the website. So you want to use this carefully and understand how to use this, but there are 2 primary types. Make sure that you know the use case before doing it. The next one comes from Indian guy 6683. He asks how to recover from algorithm update when traffic is getting ups and down after each update. This, in many industries, this is kind of the norm. Depending on what your niche is, a lot of your keywords are going to be highly volatile. And when the keyword is said to be volatile, a lot of your rankings will just keep jumping around. So that's reason number 1. The second reason being is that Google is testing your page. So Google wants to see how your page works in comparison to all the other pages that are targeting the same niche or the same subject or the same topic. And so eventually what will happen after a few of these tests, Google will decide whether to put you on position 4 or 3 or 1, where it might even decide not to put you on page 1. And so mainly during this period, and this is my own experience and I've not read this anywhere, Google is looking at overall bounce rate. It's also looking at time on site. It's also looking at overall page experience, or how long it takes for the page to load when a visitor clicks on the link to go to your page, and a few other factors depending on what industry we're talking about. But these are 3 of the main factors that Google's looking at. And so if Google sees the people are jumping off that page within seconds, the assumption is that they're not having a good experience on the page, which would then mean that your page will not rank very well. Or if people are just clicking back from your page because it's taking too long to load, then you'll probably not make it to the top 10 of Google's search results, or maybe even not to the top 5. So there are 2 main instances where this happens. The next question comes from M. Soloff 9496, and the question is, does the title need to be truthful? For example, can you write 100 kitchen organization ideas when you have less? Google doesn't really care if your title is truthful. The problem is that if you use a clickbaity title, and I'm assuming that if it's not truthful, it's because you're not using a truthful title, it's because you want to use a clickbait title. The problem with using a clickbait title is, you could lose your rankings, because when people come onto your site and they see, all right, you don't have 100 listings, but you have 80 or 90 or maybe even just 20, they will just click back and not read the entirety of your page. And so clickbait, to some extent, it could harm your rankings in the long term, and so you don't want to necessarily do it. Now, if you said 100 products and you just had 99 products or 90 products, people would not even notice this until they scroll right down, and by then they've probably spent a minute on your page, which will not necessarily harm your rankings, and you'll probably see that they're spending more time on your page, and that could work to your advantage. But again, this would depend on how you use it. I wouldn't necessarily use clickbaity titles, but in some instances I've seen it work very well. Google doesn't really care; it just cares about people having a good experience on the site. If the title is untruthful and people are still having a good experience, Google doesn't have a problem with that. So the next question comes from Diabetic Game Guy, and he asks, "Can you please let us what type of schema markup you would put on a informational blog post?" So the two main kinds of schema markup. The main one is article schema markup, and then you have the blog post schema markup. I would use the blog post schema markup. You can go to schema.org. There's the entire structure for blog post schema markup is highlighted. You could use a plugin like Yoast that does it automatically, but I wouldn't necessarily use it because it puts in a lot of fluff and you can't really customize how the schema is set up. So the best case scenario is we'll go to schema.org, take a look at how it's set up. It's very easy to do. And now with ChatGPT, you could probably just, if you know what you're doing, you could edit the code in ChatGPT and make it work. Make sure that you go to validated@schema.org to check if the schema is working before you put it onto your blog post, and make sure you fill in all the fields. And the other thing I just want to mention here is that if you're going to use schema markup on your blog post, make sure it's universally used on all of your blog posts and it's edited accordingly. The title, the content, everything that you put on there is universally the same, and it's fluff-free, because that will help you stand out from 90% of the other blogs that are trying to rank in the niche, because Google, in some instances, does appreciate blogs with good schema on them. So that's something to keep in mind. So the final question comes from StarShark88, and this came in via email, and they've asked if I want to get into digital marketing, where would I start? What's your recommendation? Well, my recommendation is to start with social media marketing. That's the easiest and the most sensible place to start. Find out, because everybody uses social media, get into social media, find out how it works, start using it, create your own website. Would also be my advice. Create your own website. Start with marketing your website on social media, then move to Google Ads, run PPC, see how PPC works, and then also try to work on doing organic SEO for your site. Now this obviously depends on how much time you have. You could also buy a course. I don't recommend buying any specific course, because a lot of courses don't really go in depth and they just go to a certain extent, and also they're very expensive. You can pay upwards of $1,000 for a course and you would end up with not learning enough. And also there are courses that are specifically inclined or specifically for people who want to do affiliate marketing, people who want to do lead gen, people who want to do just run an agency, do digital marketing as an agency person. But I would start with social media marketing. That would be the first step, and I would create my own website and then work on that for a year and build my experience before I then start taking on clients. And you can start taking on clients with social media and then move them on to PPC and social media for them, and maybe you could keep your fee low so that you're getting the opportunity to work with more people, and as your experience builds, you can go from there. Now, obviously I could have recommended a course, but I'm not going to do that, because I think a lot of it you can learn by doing it yourself. It's just that you need enough time to do it. I've got loads of videos that teach a lot of the stuff that people sell for upwards of $1,000 on my YouTube channel. You can watch it and you can learn a lot from it. I hope you guys like the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.